Well, I'm not sure either one of them are ever going to get their lives back or their careers back the way they had hoped or envisioned. Joining us now to talk about this, two terrific trial attorneys. Brian Claypool joins us from Tinseltown itself, of the Claypool Law Firm, and a civil rights attorney and a criminal defense attorney. Also, social media is a barometer of nothing, Brian. But I'll refer to it anyway because it is so striking, the contrast here. Each side seems to have their fans and their defenders. So the TikTok hashtag in support of Johnny Depp has 15 billion plus views. Billion with a B. The one for Amber Heard has a scant 51 million. And by the way, many of those, again on behalf of Amber Heard, are negative toward Amber Heard. What does that tell you, if anything?
Well, hey, Greg, great to be with you. I'll take a scant 10 million of those followers of Amber Heard. That's staggering. But look, at the end of the day, Greg, I think this is really two trials in one. I think Johnny Depp brought this trial. And remember, he fought to have this on TV. He wanted his day in court. He wanted his day on TV. There's a court of public opinion and there's a court of law. And I agree with Nicole. I think in the court of public opinion right now, I think Johnny Depp has done a great job especially through Camille Vasquez, to really rehabilitate his reputation. So much so, Greg, that even if Depp loses the trial, and I think there's a good chance that both of them get washed out and lose, I think Depp at the end of the day is going to win in the court of public opinion, and I think that will eventually enhance his career.
Brian,
I think that's what this case was about.
Let me stick with you a second, Brian, because, the videotapes and the photographs of this guy, he obviously had drug and alcohol issues. He seemed passed out. Yeah. But then there are these incendiary, ugly, despicable text messages that he sent, one of them to actor Paul Bettany. Let's drown her before we burn her, F her burnt corpse. If I'm on the jury, I don't have a lot of sympathy for a guy like that.
Yeah, Greg, that's true, but look, at the end of the day, there is nothing on a videotape or an audio recording where Depp is saying, I hit you, Amber. Conversely, you've got Amber Heard on tape admitting that she hit Johnny Depp, and Camille Vasquez did a great job, Greg. She addressed this, and she hit it head on. She said, "Look, Johnny Depp's not a good guy. He's not a Mother Teresa. He's got a quote dark sense of humor, not for all of us, right?" So she disclaimed that, but she made that argument after and said, "Hey, look." He could be a bad guy, a drug user, a substance abuse user. He could be violent, slamming things and breaking things, but he's not the kind of guy that's going to be a wife beater.
All right, so there are about 1 million executives at Disney, so one of them is not dispositive of anyone else. And there was, in fairness, some testimony and evidence presented, Brian, that he did lose out on job opportunities, films, because of Amber Heard's accusations. But I wonder about this. Does Johnny Depp have himself to blame? Because that op-ed was in the Washington Post, and nobody reads the Washington Post. And it was largely, it was largely ignored by everyone. And it wasn't until Johnny Depp made a big deal of it. She didn't even name him by name. It wasn't until he made a big deal of it by filing the lawsuit that it elevated the accusation. So in a way, does he have himself to blame?
Yeah, hey, Greg, initially in the case, I thought that might be the case, but as the evidence unfolded, I tend to disagree a little bit on this one for a couple of reasons. First of all, I don't think this lady at Disney was the actual decision maker on does Depp get Pirates of Caribbean 6. And number two, do you really think, Greg, you're an experienced lawyer, do you really think Disney's going to get up on the stand and say, oh, yep, I got that op-ed, man, that's why we canned Johnny Depp? I mean,
Exactly.
come on. They're gonna. That's like a Fifth Amendment plead right there by that Disney exec. Nope, don't know anything about that one. So the last point I want to make is, you can prove a fact through inference. There's a jury instruction on that. You can prove it through implied information. And I think there was evidence in the case that Pirates of the Caribbean 6 was pulled from Depp, arguably about 4 days after the op-ed came out. So with that information alone, Depp's legal team can make the argument that the false statement in the op-ed caused Depp to lose Pirates of the Caribbean 6.
Yeah, there are some people who don't have a lot of sympathy for him. Brian, does her testimony matter?
Thank you. You are just reading my mind. I was watching this again, and I'm like, what is the relevance of this? What does this prove for Amber Heard? It proves that Johnny Depp is controlling. Hello, we all know that. We've seen all the videotapes, and we've heard all the audio, how jealous he gets and everything. So that proved absolutely nothing. In fact, I would have argued that's inadmissible character evidence that's not permitted in a civil trial. Greg, can I make one other point that just came to me on that stair encounter? Remember you were talking about on the stairs, and the sister said Depp hit her, and then, Amber made a comment, and it opened the door for Kate Moss. This helped Depp. Amber Heard made a comment on the stand that she was thinking about a Kate Moss moment, right? Where there were rumors floating that Johnny Depp was going to toss Kate Moss down the stairs when they were dating, right? And that opened the door for Depp's lawyers then to bring in Kate Moss. She had been prevented from testifying in the case. But she came in and said, that absolutely never happened. And that was devastating for her, because that's the reason she says that she was slugging Johnny Depp.
All right, now that Brian, it also became a battle of the experts inside the courtroom, as it always does. And one expert tends to cancel out the other expert. So, for example, Heard's expert psychologist took the stand and said, oh, she suffers terribly from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Then it was countered by Depp's expert who said, no, she suffers from borderline or histrionic personality disorder. So they cancel each other out, or what?
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm not sure that testimony even really matters in this case, and that's how a lot of civil jury trials go, Greg. It's like, I think Nicole will agree, it's like a lot of testimony you hear in these cases, a lot of the evidence is going to be ignored by the jury. I just didn't find the mental health component really that helpful. Like, the only expert I think really that made some sense in this case was toward the end, when you were dealing, I don't know if you remember, Greg, the guy toward the end that was dealing with the photographs and whether the photographs might have been tampered with, and he was a digital expert, and to me that's something that's not going to be countered by somebody. That's something absolute, right? That's not something two people are going to be fighting over. And he basically said, hey, look, this came from an app that edits photos. This would not come out. These photos of Amber allegedly being injured aren't going to come out of an iPhone looking like this. That then suggests, that was argued in closing by Depp's lawyers, that there's an inference that the photographs were tampered with by Amber Heard. That expert testimony would help in a case like this.
Brian, the Depp's lawyers emphasized over and over again that there were no medical records that reflected or corroborated injuries on Amber Heard. But that strikes me as not at all unusual, because victims of abuse, first of all, it happens generally behind closed doors with no witnesses, and second of all, they're either afraid or they're embarrassed to report it, and thus it would stand to reason that there might not be medical records, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't abuse. Would you agree?
I would generally agree with that, but in this case, I don't agree. Here's why. Amber Heard had a zillion other photographs, a zillion other videotape of Johnny Depp in the most uncompromising positions. I mean, you had one tape, remember he was passed out like this, and like ice cream or something dripping all over his face, and she was videotaping him once when he was allegedly trying to slit his wrists. She had other photographs of Depp with cocaine on the table. So I think Depp's lawyers did a good job, Greg, in saying this, that, hey, Amber Heard, if you took photographs of everything else on the planet, and by the way, you invaded Johnny's privacy by taking all these videos and audios without his consent, then why in the world wouldn't the first picture you take after you've allegedly been physically harmed is a picture of your injuries contemporaneous with the injuries? So I don't think that argument flies well in this case.
Right now,
it is true. I pledged the entirety.
But you didn't donate it.
Unfortunately,
you didn't donate it. It's a yes or no.
I haven't been able to to fulfill those.
So that's a no, right, Ms. Heard?
I haven't been able to fulfill those pledges because I've been sued.
Brian, what do you make of that?
Well, first comment I want to make is it was a brilliant move by Depp's team to have Camille Vasquez cross-examine Amber Heard and to do the first part of the closing. You know, Greg, if you or I were up there trying to talk to Amber Heard like that, we would have been perceived by the jury as being rude and disrespectful and a bully to a woman, right? But there was something really powerful about Camille Vasquez just going head on with Miss Heard. Miss Heard, isn't it true you lied about this donation? And she just went head straight on with her. And I think that was powerful with the jury. And to the money point, I mean, why would you countersue for $100 million and then ask for $350,000 more in punitive damages in your closing argument if it's not about money? I think Heard made a mistake by filing a counterclaim for $100 million.
Yeah. Brian, with that as a backdrop, your final thoughts on this and how you think Depp versus Heard and vice versa will end?
Yeah, Greg, I think that was spot on, powerful for Depp. What Camille Vasquez is saying, and if you played that clip even further, she would have told the jury that after that 3-day ordeal, Greg, in which all of this physical abuse happened, all these injuries occurred to her, all this destruction happened, that when she woke up the next morning, what did she do? She fought and wanted to stay. She wanted to stay in Australia. She fought to stay there. Mm-hmm. That gives the implication to the jury that this probably didn't happen the way she said. One last point, I'm telling you, the lack of any medical evidence. I took my daughter to the urgent care last week because she had 2 days of a stomach ache. I took her to urgent care. I mean, the lack of medical documentation, corroboration is going to be devastating for Amber Heard. That said, I still think that the way this is probably going to wash out is, I think, remember, only one instance of abuse has to occur. I think both of them are going to lose. But I think Depp wins in the court of public opinion.
Yeah, well, that's what I said at the outset. The jurors are going to say to themselves, good Lord, I still don't know who's telling the truth, who's lying, who's embellishing. I don't know whom to believe. They're both actors. And so the jurors may throw up their hands and find in favor of nobody. And I think, Nicole, for your final thoughts, let me just set it up with this. Early on in the trial, the therapist who worked with both of them stated unequivocally and quite succinctly there was mutual abuse. So how do you think this ends?
You know, I think that Johnny Depp has already won this trial. And by that, I mean, no matter what the verdict is, he's walked away with the result that he wanted going into this, which is for his opportunity to speak about these allegations and to debunk them and at least have someone know his side of the story. That has happened. I don't think he ever expected or anyone ever expected Amber Heard to turn up with like $1 million, not to mention $50 million. The issue has always been for him getting his story out there. So even if this jury comes back and finds for neither of them, he's won. Even if somehow they find that he should pay some money, he's won. So to me, this case was over the minute Amber Heard testified.
Yep. All right. Brian Claypool, two really fine lawyers. You've been following the trial closely, and you provided for us some terrific insight. And for that, we thank you. Take care. Hope to see you again real soon.